Hey, y'all. Welcome back to another episode of MB2 Underground. I am Sarah Kiefer. And if you typically join in to hear Joe's late night radio talk show host voice, you will be disappointed because he is not with me today. But don't worry, I brought the vibes, and my guest brought the vibes as well. So I'm really excited to introduce everybody to an MB2 legend, I think I can say.
That's a lot, yeah.
The bar's high.
That's right.
A doctor that has probably had more successful referrals into MB2 partnership than anybody. He's brought a whole clan. The guy that's also trying to steal everybody's job because he's acted as an attorney as the integration team to do team meetings, business development to sell MB2. The one, the only Dr. Tej Lad.
Thank you for having me, Sarah.
Welcome. I'm glad to have you.
Yeah.
I'm going to make this about me just for a second.
That's totally fine.
Yeah.
That's what I would expect, nothing else.
So you and I have had this ongoing conversation for 4 years now
Yeah,
that
about right.
I think you sound like Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, that's what you said.
Yeah, and you don't think so.
No.
So I feel like on this podcast episode, we need to do a poll. I don't know if that you can do that, but I want you to say it, and you know what you're going to say, and then I want everybody to vote on it.
We're going to do that now?
I want to do it now.
All right.
One more time.
Oh, that wasn't good?
No, you got in your head a little bit.
Because you put it there. If you just said nothing, it would have been fine.
Come on.
All right.
All right, yeah. So whoever needs to put the poll in. I don't know what's going to get done.
I just said it that one time we were talking, and then you were like, you know what?
You know what you sound like.
Yeah. And then when you put it in my head, I can't do it, maybe. I don't know.
I think I'm going to win. But I'm excited to have you here. I know you're in town golfing and vibing.
Yep, having fun.
But let's go back a little bit and talk about how you got into dentistry, what inspired you to pursue dentistry, all of what led up in your career prior to joining MB2.
So growing up, my parents came over from India, and the way you made it here from India was you were either a doctor or an engineer. And so the only thing they ever implanted in my brother and my head is you're a doctor or an engineer. It's like only two choices in life to do anything.
Okay.
Consequently, because like I said, with education, they made it over here because they both grew up very poor. And my mom has a really great story, which we probably don't have time for in this thing, but it's great. She grew up in like a poor village. They actually had like a baby Bengal tiger as a pet because her dad like found it or maybe killed them, something.
Yeah, I don't think we need to hear your story. Let's hear hers.
Yeah,
instead.
It's way better. I thought one time they were having this deal on Oprah where it's like you could turn in like a story, and I was like, I should turn, because my mom loved Oprah.
Yeah.
We went and saw Oprah one time, but I was like, I should turn this story in. But the bottom line, the short story of that is she grew up very, very poor. And in India, it's like 56 years behind America. Okay. So women getting educated and doing things is very difficult. Consequently, usually those families, the son, eldest son or any of the sons get educated, daughters get married.
Okay.
So her mom, so I grew up very poor. She was the youngest child, had an older brother and two older sisters. Two older sisters got married like at 18. Older brother's an engineer.
Everybody did what they were supposed to do.
She was last in line. Her mom died when she was like 15 or 16, but her mama would just tell her, you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be a doctor. True story. You're going to be a doctor, you're going to be a doctor. And she took that and she went to med school. She actually met my dad because my aunt, my dad's sister, and her were in the same med school class. And that's how they met. Anyway, it is a crazy story, like really like unbelievable, And like I said, it makes it more unbelievable in that time period where, like I said, India being that much further behind the U.S. So to be poor and be a woman and to make it out, it was really just her mom like implanting. Anyway, the main thing you told me about that was, so I grew up like that, but we had a lot of family, a lot of aunts, uncles, doctors, engineers, whatever. And I just was like, man, I'm not doing that. I'm not dealing with life or death. And that was probably a little misguided to think that's all you have to do when you're a doctor's life or death. But I was like, I'm not doing that.
Right.
And honestly, I liked working with my hands. I like talking to people. No problem there. Yeah, never. And so I just like, man, these dentists seem like they work 4 days a week and make lots of money and just kind of chit chat. And I didn't have a lot of stuff go wrong with my teeth. So it was a lot of, he just comes and pokes around and walks out. And I'm like,
positive experience.
Yeah. I was like, man, this is easy. This is good. I still didn't know. I actually started out in school engineering and I was going to get my MBA. And truthfully, I hit physics for engineering and it just kicked my rear. I think I flunked the first test. I did flunk the first test.
Confirmed.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm out of here. And something about calc-based physics just didn't register because I went to life science physics the next semester, and I had the highest grade in the class. So trig is where I stopped, where my math brain stopped.
Right.
So I was like, man, I'm out of here. And I switched to finance. I actually switched my degree to finance. And I was still doing the requirements to get into dental school or med school. They were about the same.
Okay.
You know? And so I was continuing to do that. Didn't know what I was going to do. And honestly, went and followed around a doctor, a dentist in Tulsa that my mom hooked me up with because his sister was a pediatric resident under my mom. She was teaching at OU a little bit.
Okay.
And so I'd go hang out at this guy's office, and he'd talk and he'd work, and it seemed, like no big deal. And we'd go fishing on Friday. And
you were sold.
I was sold. I was like, so I'd come watch this guy on Wednesday, I'd go fish on Friday, and he's like, just write all these hours down as your observation hours. You're fine. And that was it. And so you have to pick something. And I just went to dental school, and I didn't really realize how much I'd like it until I got there.
Yeah.
We started doing it. I love the people. We had a great class, graduated in 2003. I love all my classmates. We had a lot of fun. We worked hard. We had a lot of fun together, had great memories. And, you got out and went to work. And that's kind of how it went. I mean,
and you married a dentist, too.
I married a dentist. I met my wife. I actually met her in undergrad. Yeah. I met her in undergrad. We didn't start dating. We were just friends for several years. She had a boyfriend. And I won't get into the full story of, it was really funny. The first day I met her, I'd met her in a prep class for the DAT, the admissions class. And then we had organic chemistry together. And she comes up to me and she said,
because your chemistry was organic.
Oh.
Thank you.
So you don't need Joe here. You got this.
Told you, brought the vibes.
Yeah, that's right. So she came up to me. She goes, hey, I got a friend that thinks you're cute and wants to go out. And I go, well, I think you're pretty cute. Why don't we go out?
Okay, smooth.
And so then I was like, well, think about it. And I just walked away. And then she called me. This is before we all had cell phones. So she calls me on the landline. That's how old I am. So call me on the landline that afternoon or evening. And I was like, oh, this chick. And I was like, well, what's the deal? And she said, well, I have a boyfriend. And I was like, oh, this girl she wants a new guy before she dumps her old guy.
Oh, my gosh.
But that's not what happened. Instead, we were friends for the next couple of years.
Okay.
And then we started dating in dental school.
So you built up the trust. Friend zone first.
That's right. Yeah. So you can get out of the friend zone. It's okay. It
works.
It. Yeah.
Okay. So you graduated University of Oklahoma in 2003.
Yep.
Talk through a little bit about some of the challenges and positives of being a practice owner really early in your career. Because it was 3 years out of dental school before you were a practice owner?
Correct. Yeah. So a year, I went to work for Dr. Rieger Wood. And a year after working with him.
Did I know that?
I don't know if you knew that. Yeah.
Okay.
So Dr. Wood he was my first job out of school.
That's crazy.
And so I worked for him. When I first went to see him, he was like, I've got 3 sons and I'm not looking for a partner. I said, that's fine, no problem. And a year into it, I found a building to buy. And so I bought it. And because I was like, well, I'm dating this girl in dental school and we're probably going to practice together. So a year into working, I found this building to buy, and I walked in. I said, hey, Dr. Wood, I need to talk to you. He goes, oh, great, I want to talk to you too. And he says, you know what? This is working really well. I don't know what these kids are going to do, but I think maybe we should talk about you staying. I go, well, I just bought this building, and I'm going across town. And he's like, no problem. He's a great guy. He was like, that's no problem. He's like, do what you need to do. So I started working out there on Fridays. I worked with him like Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and started building up that practice. And there was a husband and wife dentist that were in there that were building a new building. So I kind of worked on Fridays when they weren't there because they were working while their new building is getting built. Okay. And so anyway, just slowly transitioned in that. So I think, that when you talk about challenges, I mean, interesting enough, we did it twice because Bean and I were going to work together, but we figured out we wouldn't stay married very long working together. So we had to open a second office for her. Mm-hmm. So we've been through it twice, starting from scratch. And, there are some challenges just not knowing what to do. From simple stuff like getting the credit card machine set up, doing this, doing that, just all these different things. Getting those things set up and started. And then those quiet days when you're starting from scratch and it's just, and even, negotiating. Thankfully, in one way, I wouldn't just take the supply guy's answers when they said, this is how much this $8,000 chair is. Right. I wouldn't negotiate with them and stuff. But we have several of those guys out there, my friends that are with me, and they would just pay whatever and just go on with whatever. So, it's very expensive to start. At that time, which is probably nothing now, but I remember when we did Bina's office in 2 rooms and the pumps and hand pieces, it's like $200,000 just for 2 rooms to work.
Right.
And like I said, that's 2011 prices. I don't even know what they are these days. I have no idea. 13 years later,
You're kind of handcuffed in private practice to just whatever people tell you.
yeah, you are, because you don't know better,
negotiating.
and a lot of that is you don't know better. I'd like to teach, like, I don't want to go in there and teach fillings, but I would like to do a class that is totally voluntary, and just bring these kids in and just talking about what they don't want to talk about in school, which is fine, but how you make money, how do you get out and do well, what are the challenges, like we all know. I mean, it's getting so much harder to be in private practice by yourself. Equipment costs going up, supply costs going up, payroll's going up, reimbursement is not going up, insurances are not. So, we can't artificially just raise our revenue 5% and we make 5% more money next year.
Right.
That's not what happens. Insurance goes, we're not raising anything, and nothing happens. Well, meanwhile, your costs are going up.
For
So
sure.
your profit margin is shrinking. And these kids need to understand that. I mean, that's why, even though, when we have those MB2 nights at the school, I always go down and go to the University of Oklahoma and talk to these kids. And I'm not even looking, I've already got my partner, Dr. Cameron Craig, who is great, and that's what allows me to only go in the office twice a week, is that he's there. So I'm
Yeah.
not even looking for a recruit when I go over there. I'm just going over there to talk to these kids.
Yeah.
Just to go, this is what's happening. This is the challenges. Nobody talks about this in dental school. And it's not that they don't talk. They have so much more other stuff going on that they're trying to do. So it's kind of hard to feed these kids a little bit more, business stuff.
Yeah.
But it's just busy. So anyway, if I was going to do anything, I'd teach a voluntary class. And I say voluntary because I'm up there not for my benefit, but for their benefit. So
Right.
if somebody doesn't want to talk about it, just go home.
Well, and seeing that there's a gap in the education around that. So you're a big finance guy. Where do you think that comes from?
I don't know. I really don't know, because my dad wasn't like that necessarily. My mom wasn't like that. I mean, she had her own office for a while, but really didn't like managing and running that.
Yeah.
My brother's a physician. He's never wanted his own office. He just, he works for a bigger hospital system and just goes. So I don't know where I got that from, really. I don't know, kind of hustle around and run around and just go.
Even when we started working together, I remember doing your interview and you were talking about like other side hustles and investments that you
Right.
had. And it seems like something that's been a really big focus for you. And it's probably something a lot of our dentists can relate to, whether that's, one of the 6 income opportunities that comes with being a partner with MB2, or just the diversified portfolio of investments and such. So I just think it's interesting to think about where that financial sense comes from, and like how that's, and how that led you to MB2. I mean,
what happened, like I said, I was a finance major at OU. I really liked business. I considered it a time to leave and go to Wharton, like Penn State's business school. But I stuck it out and went to dental school. And what happened was I was working, and there was a girl that I went to high school with, and her husband were patients. And her husband was a pretty smart guy, and he didn't work a lot. And he did, but they had a gas company with his dad and his brother, and they sold it. And then he just was kind of living off the money, but not just spending it, but investing it.
Right.
He's a pretty smart guy. So he's the one that first told me. So like you said, I've invested in a lot of real estate stuff. And he was the first person that told me, and he's like, Tej, if you buy this house, put it up for rent, somebody will rent it. I'm
Right.
like, there's no way, Todd. And he's like, it will happen. And I did it. And I was like, all right, this is okay. And then I did another one and then another one. And first I was like, oh, this will cover Bina's shopping habit for the month. And then, and then it started getting more and more. And I was like, hey, this is getting somewhere.
yeah.
And so, I just started continuing to expand that and go, and grew it to enough where when it really came down to it, so you asked me, or talk about how MB2 and all that thing came about. I reached a point where I was getting to be like, hey, I don't have to be in the office that much. And I'd had associates in my office
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But I honestly could never give up control while it was kind of fully my baby.
Right.
And because I was worried that the associate would maybe not, do enough right, or wouldn't produce enough or whatever. So, yeah, I was really controlling. So I couldn't let go of letting the associate kind of really run and let the girls run. I was always kind of looking over their shoulder, watching what they were doing up front and this and that.
Right.
And and then, like I said, it was in my business. I started from zero,
It's
you know,
your baby.
your baby.
Yes.
And so, you know, you're driving this ship and you're like, man. So actually in 2019, I had an ad out for an associate, and Dr. K, I can't even say his last name, Carapolo.
Oh, Dr. K.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's why I was going to stay there.
Yep.
And then you looked at me like, you're like, who's Dr. K?
It took me a second.
Yeah.
I'm back.
Okay. And so he called me out of the blue and he was like, hey, we saw your ad. He started talking to me and he goes, hey, we saw your ad. We're part of this. And I go, wait a minute. I go, buddy, that's not what my ad says. So I don't want to talk to you.
Click.
Bam. Over. 2019 summer.
Mic drop.
COVID happens. 2020. I'm like, I'm up here at the lake fishing, you know, just goofing off. I got a lot of time on my hands. Why don't I call these guys and see what the heck they're doing?
Yeah.
What are they up to? I was just fishing for answers. I was just looking to see what the heck
Fishing
was
for
going.
fish and fishing for answers.
That's right. So might as well. I was like, I'm out here just hanging out. Let me find out what these guys. And I had time because at that time, I was working 5 days a week. I was doing the real estate. I mean, so I was burning the candle at both ends, or whatever that saying
Well, and the whole
goes.
reason you got into this was to have the balance and to be able to
Right.
fish on Fridays and
Exactly.
golf.
And
apparently
so
now.
yeah, that's happened lately. And so you know, I called up here and I was like, so what are you guys doing? We were actually having a guys weekend with all those guys that are out there. So we always have these guys weekends twice a year, one before Memorial Day and one after Labor Day. We were having the guys weekend. I remember I was sitting on the back of a golf cart in the garage and he called me back and I was talking to him a little bit and I go, okay, well, you know, this is what we're doing. So I'll catch up with you guys later. And I don't remember who I started talking to first. Oh, it had to be Ty Rock.
Yeah.
So Ty Rock was my BD, as Rod said, that I didn't understand who he was asking me one time. We were just talking. He goes, who's your BD? I go, BD? Who's your BD? You guys love to talk in codes. You know that? Like
Yeah,
little
we
initials.
have MB2isms.
Yeah. And so he was like, BD. I'm like, my baby daddy? What are you saying to me, Rod? He goes, who's your business? I was like, I don't have. What are you talking about? He goes, your business development. I was like, oh, it's Ty Rock. Anyway, so Ty Rock and I started talking. At the same time, I was talking to an associate, a young kid coming out of Utah. And he was going to be an associate for me. And I told him, I was like, look, I'm talking to these guys, MB2. I don't know where it's going to lead. I have no idea, but I want to be upfront with you.
Right.
He's like, that's fine. We'll work with you. And so I start talking to Ty Rock and I start learning more. And after a while, I told Ty Rock, I said, I don't want to talk to you anymore. I want to talk to another dentist.
Yeah.
I want to talk to another dentist in Oklahoma around here. So he hooked me up with Matt Walker, who's become a great friend of mine, great guy.
Love that.
Yeah. And so Matt and I hit it off. Matt likes to fish and we talked stuff. And he just told me, he was like, listen, these guys, they're not going to tell you what to do. They're not going to tell you how to do it. They're only going to take the people that know what they're doing already. So there's no reason for them to tell you anything different. And they're just there to help you and support you, whatever you're trying to figure out you want to do. And I was like, okay, sounds good. So
It's a whole different conversation coming from another clinician.
It
and
is.
Somebody who had
It
been
is.
with us for a decent amount of time at
well,
that point.
and that's where, like, even though I didn't know Matt really well, I trusted him, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
Dentist code.
dentist code, right? Exactly. I can't trust this business guy out of Dallas that I
Yeah,
don't
the
know. I
BD.
can't trust Ty Rock. Who's
He's not
this
your
guy?
baby daddy.
No, he's not my. How am I going to listen to this guy? So then I talked to Walker, and I was like, well, okay. And I kind of started going through the process, and you know, I started telling some of my friends about it. Interesting enough, about that time, my wife Beena was like, hey, you know our friend Prashant Patel up in Kansas City. He's like,
Yeah.
he just joined this group called MB2. And I go, that's so funny because I just I think he did it in 2019 maybe.
Yeah.
And I think that was
think
like
that's right.
right when Dr. K called me. I was like, that's so weird because this dude called me randomly, bothering me off my associate ad, and you know, was telling me about this MB2 deal. So anyway, like I said, fast forward a year. Anyway, the numbers worked out and made sense, and the biggest thing of it was in my controlling nature, it let me back off. And what they asked me and what they ask everybody as soon as you start coming in and you have your I had a Zoom call. I couldn't come in here.
COVID. And
COVID
such,
time.
yes.
So I had a Zoom call for my discovery day. Everybody was just, what can we help you do? What can we help you achieve? Where do you want to get to? And I was like, hey, this is what I want. What do you want help with? Well, you know, I want to take some chips off the table. Okay, no problem. We understand that. So I want to take some equity out of my practice. I want to back off watching and like looking over the back of these girls up front and making sure they do this right or that right. I want to take some of this administrative headache off my back because I was working all day 8 to 5, no lunch. I was doing the real estate. I was still doing this, like putting checks, like taking the checks to the bank. I mean, the girls would get it ready, but all these
Still had a
things.
family.
Yeah, still have
Yeah.
these kids, these young kids at the time.
These kids.
Yeah, these kids, they're great. We're doing all these things. And so I was like, I want help with this. And I want to be able to back off and work less and enjoy my life because I spent so much time and so much effort there for about a pretty good period building the real estate stuff and working. And I just was ready to cruise. MB2 worked perfectly that in my circumstance, in my situation, multiple ways. Like I said, I took chips off the table. I had an associate, I brought him in. I was able to move some of the work that I was doing from administrative stuff on the dental side to MB2.
Yeah.
And it just really worked out well. And
It must have, because then you, got 7 of your friends?
Now we got, 8 of them.
Wow.
Nine total referrals, 8 of them from my classmates.
That is crazy.
And so when I did it, after I got into it and I saw what it was about, I just started telling everybody.
Yeah.
I just said, look, and I was even cold calling people that I hadn't talked to in 20 years, from school. Like, hey, it's Tej, whatever. This is what I'm doing. What are you up to? You need to look at this. And I never tell anybody, you got to join.
Yeah.
I just tell everybody, you're stupid not to look at it. And that's it. And I just go, they will do a free appraisal on your practice.
Worst case scenario.
Worst case scenario, it's not going to hurt you. It's not that hard. You're stupid not to look at it. I didn't tell you have to join.
Right.
But you're stupid not to look at it. The problem there becomes is once they look at it, they want to join.
Right.
And that's it happens. And that's happened 9 times, and 8 of them being classmates of mine.
That's so cool. It is cool that not only was it such a positive experience for you that you wanted to tell people, but that people trusted you enough to do it themselves.
And that was a big thing, right?
Yeah.
Like they could trust me. They knew me from school. They know me for a long time. Tej isn't going to just lead us down this wrong path. But just like I said, I just told them to look at it. And some of them looked at it, didn't do it, came back a year later, joined. Some of them just never have, but still or have it in consideration. Their timing is not right. That's usually the problem is your timing is not right.
Yeah.
Some of them looked at it, immediately were ready. Dr. Castillo, a couple of these guys, all these people. It was immediately ready. I think when Dr. Castillo, when he joined, I actually called Dr. King in Arkansas because he sat next to me in clinic. So we sat alphabetically. So King, Lad. So he sat next to me for 4 years. So
I think you just wanted
him.
to say King Lad, like those
Well,
words together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe subconsciously.
I heard that.
Yeah. So we sat next to I called him and I was like, hey, this is the deal. And he's like, well, I'm not ready for this. But I was like, well, Eric better than I do.
Right.
They were older. They were both nurses and they came back to school. So they had families. So they were in the older group of guys in school. And he's like, yeah, this would be perfect for Eric. Call Eric. And so I called Eric and we got all that going and just slowly worked out. And that I hope it is and hopefully continues to work out very well. I mean, the main thing I always tell them is this doesn't help you and your family. If it doesn't move you forward to what you're trying to do, don't do it.
Yeah.
Everybody's individual thing, but just look at it. For me, it was tremendous. After the fact, after I joined, found my partner, Dr. Craig, Cameron Craig joined us. I now work Monday and Wednesday, go play golf. But I mean, it is so much fun. I mean, I remember my wife and I both, we'd always talk about it, get to Christmas time. You're leaving the neighborhood. It's early. It's dark. Yeah. It's cold. There are no lights on the house besides us and the gynecologist guy next door. These are the only people awake. Everybody else is asleep, cozy in their bed. With the rest, the couple med people here are leaving and going to work.
Right.
And I remember, I mean, it wasn't that long ago, but like the first Christmas break, that I was like, man, I just get to hang out with these kids. And just, I don't have to run around like crazy like I was. And it was fantastic.
You made it.
Yeah, made it. Patients ask me all the time, oh, Dr. Lad, it must be nice. You only work 2 days a week. I go, it's not nice. It's awesome.
It's earned.
It's awesome, and it took a lot of work, but it is awesome. It is so much fun. And I was telling somebody, I mean, gosh, we just, all summer, me and the kids, we just get up and we go play golf. We go eat, hang out, do this, do that, and go to the lake, fish, surf.
Yeah, I believe I heard a rumor that you took your first MBR call from the boat.
that may be true.
Yeah.
I've done some MBR calls from all over the place.
When I say
Mexico,
I heard a rumor, I
this,
mean,
that, yeah.
verified,
Even
confirmed.
my buddy Brian that's here with us right now that works for Walmart, I've taken an MBR call where we're fishing on Lake Fork.
Oh my gosh.
And it got to a deal where Rod and Carrie were like, where are you? Like, what's going on in the background there, Tej? What are you doing?
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Vibing.
That's right.
So you've been an MB2 partner for 4 years now, and we've talked a little bit about your financial background. What financial principles and strategies are you implementing, like now that you've gotten, some equity out of your practice, went through a recapitalization event, you had your real estate.
Yep. And a lot of all that you just said, the initial partnership, the recap event led me to more finances to continue to invest in more real estate. Which
Yeah, Joe wanted me to ask what your thoughts were about the housing market and the interest rates.
Well, it's tough. It's gotten tough. It's what's happened.
34.
Yeah. I mean, because when you look at your return and you look at the interest rates, it gets really tough.
Yeah.
So I was fortunate. I mean, I almost wish I did more back, 5-6 years ago pre-COVID, but I did what I did. And so I'm glad for what I did do. But it's harder now. I mean, it's definitely harder. It's still doable. You just got to work a little harder for the deals and stuff like that. But it's definitely doable. But I mean, taking that money, being able to reinvest it in other stuff. I mean, I just tell my kids one thing. I don't tell them to be doctors. I don't tell them to be dentists. I just said, listen, you got to learn one thing. Whatever you make, try to invest and live off of your investment. You never go broke like that, right? Yeah. You make money. You don't make money to spend money. You make money to invest money, live off the investment. You're good because you're living off what's just coming in before you even get out of bed. So you can't go broke like that. And if you never get your expenses, because it's not about how much you make, it's how much you spend.
Yeah.
And if you just follow that idea, no matter what you do, it will work. And it doesn't have to be real estate. I mean, there's so many guys that do so many different things.
Yeah.
Dr. Walker's big into this dividend investment theory. I think him and another doc that kind of taught us all about it came up here and talked about it with some of the execs and spoke about it.
Interesting.
And so there's just so many things. But if you just follow that concept, I think you're in good shape.
So you're passing down to your children the passive income theory of
idea. Yeah. I wasn't taught that. I mean, I grew up with mom and dad working hard. Dad's an engineer. Mom's a pediatrician. They worked till they were, 65 or whatever and just retired. And when I got out of dental school, I didn't think any differently.
Yeah.
I thought, well, we're just going to work and, go along, and then you get older and you have your retirement and you just stop working and that's it.
Yeah.
And it really wasn't until this guy, Todd, talked to me about this stuff. And I was like, well, I guess. I mean, I'm not going to I was just working my butt off every day. And I was like, I'm not doing this so we can buy more stuff. We have stuff.
Right.
So it got to that point. That's really what happened in 2013. I was like, we have stuff. We have a nice house. We have nice cars. We have all these things. I'm not buying, I'm not just working this hard to just keep buying things.
Right.
And that's when I started turning
or just to maintain this.
Right.
Right.
And then, like I said, I started turning to that. And at first it was like, yeah, this is okay. And then I saw it going somewhere. And then it got to a point where it's like, okay, this is all we need. Like, I mean, this is a better life. It's more fun.
So what financial advice do you have for our listeners?
I think that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to do real estate. You don't have to do stuff. You do whatever you
find your thing.
Find your thing. And I'm not going to say like you find your thing.
Why not? You just did.
So, yeah, find whatever you trust. And that's what it is. Whatever you trust, whatever you believe in, whatever you feel like. Like if you ask me to go buy whatever, $200,000 in a stock, I'm like, no, I'm not going to sleep at night. But hey, go buy this rent house for $200,000 and rent it. Yeah, let's do that all day. I got no problem with that. That sounds totally doable.
Love it.
It works. And so I trust it. So I'm trying to learn now to do other things besides the real estate. So that's kind of where I'm at. And
what's next?
There's all kinds. There's these tax-free bonds.
Oh, the tax-free bonds. That's what I've been telling everybody they should be doing.
That's a good one.
Thank you.
Yeah. So there's, there is that dividend investment theory. I'm starting to dabble in that thanks to Dr. Walker. And, I'm just trying to find little different stuff. And we also have MB2 as an investment. I mean, that's another great investment. The investment tools that by being a partner that it opens you up to. Not only that, we're down in San Diego. I met several doctors that do a lot of different stuff. So we're talking. So it's a lot of fun because the thing about MB2 is when you get in there and you start talking to these docs, you're not just talking to some bum off the street. These are all successful people. Otherwise, they wouldn't even be in MB2.
Up in here.
We don't bring bums in here. So these are all successful dentists that have worked hard. And guess what? They're doing other things too. I mean, I'm not the only one. I'm talking to several of these guys. Dr. Nathan Burns, I met for the first time. We were talking about several things. He does some oil investments and stuff like that through a group. Tommy Reed, Dr. Reed, he does some different things.
The minerals.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's what Nathan does too,
yeah.
Dr. Burns. So, there's several, and that's what you get. You get this mixture of these people that like to have fun. They're successful. Yeah, it's like a think tank. And you're just surrounded by these people. It's really neat. It's really a lot of fun. And you're surrounded by these people that sort of think the way you do and do stuff. And everybody does different stuff, but there's
same mentality.
Same mentality. That's a great way to say it, Sarah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay. To round these out, 2 fun questions. This is a family show, and I just say that ahead of time because I know exactly where your brain goes.
Right.
What is like a funny or memorable patient story that you can share?
Oh man, well, so the funniest one comes to mind, but I think you just told me not to say a bad word on it.
You can.
Okay, so
it's just us here.
All right, we had this patient, and he was kind of a different looking character. I'm pulling the teeth on him, and I look on his neck, and he's got this tattoo on his neck, and up the side of his neck it says "Trust no bitch." And we were like, he was a little sketchy, so I didn't want to really ask him like who prompted.
Which bitch are we not trusting?
Who was so bad that you needed to have a tattoo to remind yourself?
Going up his head.
Up his neck, on his. It was crazy, and it was really. We had another crazy one. I mean, we had this. I don't know if I should get in this story. We had another patient, really interesting. This lady comes in, and she's really quiet, really shy. She wouldn't even look you in the eye, and you almost felt about like, are you okay? Like, are you abused? Like, what's wrong?
Yeah.
And we had a teacher in school that always told you to call your patients. He said, call your patients after you do work on them. So I did that.
Okay.
I would, every night before I left the office, if I pulled a tooth or I did a root canal, I called that patient, check on them. At the end of the following week, I would call all the patients that I didn't already talk to. So any patient that was just a filling, anybody that we numbed, that we gave anesthesia to, I would call them and check on them. And it was an unbelievable, practice. People were like, what? I even had one patient that was sitting, riding with her girlfriend, like her friend. There's 2 girls, and they, you get it one second.
Yeah, I got it.
It's just, and she was like, who are you talking to? She told me the story after the fact because she came in. She's like, who are you talking to? She goes, that's my dentist. Why is your dentist calling you? He's calling to check on me. I want a dentist like that. And so
cool, I've got a place.
Yeah. So she became a patient. She was telling me a story. So anyway, so this lady is really shy, really quiet, won't look you in the eye. You're almost like, is something wrong? Is she abused? So I pull these teeth on her. So I call her, right? Mm-hmm. So that night, before the girls have all left the office, I'm there, I'm making my calls.
Right.
I call this girl, and her answering machine literally comes up, and it's like, hi, if you're calling for an appointment, please leave the time, duration.
Oh, no.
And, yeah. And I was like, oh, my God, whoa, what is this?
No.
And
so
I was
that
like,
was like her sultry voice.
yeah. And it was like,
wait, I want to make sure we're on the same page.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, she was a hooker. I mean, she was a hooker. And so,
okay.
And so, but it was just, I was just like, oh my God. And I was just by myself, and I was like, so the next morning, as soon as I get to the office, I'm telling the girls up front, I'm like, Kelly, Danielle, you got to listen to this. Listen. I was like, dial her number. Here it comes. Hi.
Please stop making that voice.
Yeah. And so she goes through her whole messaging thing, leave the time, duration, and blah, blah, blah of your appointment. Yeah, it was creepy. And they're like, oh my God. So probably what's worse about this, because then I'm like getting my assistant, getting the hygienist, and we're doing.
She's got like 40 missed calls
from me. Yeah, that's exactly right. It's like, this guy's called me like 40 times.
And he gets too nervous and just hangs up before he can actually
make an appointment.
Okay, that was a good patient story. I like that. Yeah, I'm glad you decided to share it.
Yeah, I didn't know. Maybe that was probably not as bad. I don't know if that was worse or better than the first one as far as being a family show.
Yeah, the way I look at it is if they don't like it, they can just cut it.
Yeah, that's right. That's too good, though. You don't want to miss that.
No.
That was funny.
If not, I'm going to tell everybody anyway.
Yeah, it's a good story. We should try to call her and see if the message is still the
No, she's going to be like, this guy is obsessed with
I don't want to use my phone again.
No, we can't have that in our records. Okay, favorite MB2 story, like from an MB2 event? from integration. You remember when Bina made a dinner reservation because I spent my birthday with you guys during integration week?
That was your birthday. Yeah, I
Yes,
do
that was
remember.
very
That was
sweet.
fun. You, me, and Rod and Bina. We had a great dinner.
We did.
That was a lot of fun.
It's very sweet.
My best integration story.
No, just MB2 story.
I don't know what the best.
MB2 story, your best or your
God,
favorite.
You know, it's kind of
story
like
in MB2
school.
event.
So when we left school, we do an exit interview with the dean, and he is like, "What has been the best thing over the last 4 years?" I said, "The people I've met, my classmates. That was the best thing." I think the same thing goes with MB2. The people I've met, you guys that work at MB2 headquarters, everybody's awesome. The other doctors, the friends that we've made, going to the owners' retreats.
Yeah.
You know, it just people that are fun, that want to have fun and just have a good time, just like those people sticking their head in here just a second ago, those idiots. You know, but I think you meet some great people, and I think that's probably. And I don't know, I can't just pin down the, you know, I mean the owners' retreat to Cabo where they brought the wrestling ring in, that and the wrestlers, that was fun.
That was such a winning event.
That was
People
a good
loved
one.
That
Was a good one. Just now, San Diego, the weather was fantastic. Had a great time there. So. And I think we're going to Lake Tahoe next year. That's the word I hear. Is that true? You guys gonna give me the inside story?
I don't know. Spoiler alert.
I don't know. You didn't
Everybody
hear that
stand
from me.
by.
Yeah, you didn't hear that from me.
No,
I
of
didn't
course
do that.
not.
So
Anything you want to add?
No, that's it. We appreciate you guys having us out here. I do. I have to get a shout out to my girls at 111 Dental in Tulsa.
Represent?
Yeah, otherwise they're going to be mad.
Okay.
And so
they're going to be like, I listened to this whole thing.
Yeah, and no shout out.
Okay,
so
shout out.
They're back there working today, and we're here having fun playing golf and doing this and just having a great time.
Awesome.
So.
Well, thank you so much for coming in. I think you've got a really unique story and really interesting background. I do think we have to bring you back to talk a little bit more about your mom. I think that would be cool.
Yeah, it's a great story. I'll bring her down here.
Love it. We'll interview her.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. All my buddies love her. They're like, your mom's the best.
Oh, my gosh.
She makes us rum cake for our guys' weekends and stuff like that.
If she comes, she's bringing rum cake.
Yeah, that's good.
Cool.
All right.
Well, everybody listening, thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you next time on MB2 Underground. MB2 out.